Well, welcome everybody to Raising the Grade, episode 943. Not really, like 10% of that. I think we're on 18 or something. I'm Eric. I own Rising Tide Landscapes, and today I've got Jack Dyer with me. And in your company, you might have a couple of them. You've got the Yee shirt on, but we've also got innovative designs. I know.
Yeah.
I try to just jump right in. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Jack.
So let's see. I've been out here in the valley for the last eight years now, I think.
Okay.
And recently got my KA license.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm involved with a few different companies, but
Okay.
co-owner of Innovative by Design with
Okay.
David Kovar-Rubius, who's also the owner of AZ Pool Trades.
Awesome.
And Innovative Pool Systems.
Okay.
So I've got a lot going on at any given
Killer.
time, and just loving making good connections.
Well, thanks for being here, and to kind of go into that connection route. This podcast has been bar none the best way for me to meet people, because it's like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Literally, everybody's like, oh, I could probably do that, you know.
Right.
But it's been so fun to really just grab people, and then they know them, and they know them, and they know them. I think it was Trace that we kind of met through one of my earlier guests. So that was super fun. Tell me about kind of like, who is Jack? I know we were just talking, you were in Oregon for some period of time. Like, where'd you grow up, and what made you exit Oregon? Give me a little bit of backstory.
Sure. So I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
It's very cold there
Minnesota.
right about now.
I think I have to say that.
Oh, no. If you start doing it, I'm going to start doing it.
Okay, well.
I lived there, grew up there until I was 21, 22, something like that.
Okay.
And said, hey, you know what? I've had enough of the Midwest, and I want to go somewhere different.
Cold
and
enough.
Found myself in Portland.
You went from cold to wet.
Cold to wet, and cloudy, and
Depressing.
Sorry, a little bit.
Throwing Portland under the bus.
Well, it has its ups and downs,
Sure.
to say the least. But
Okay.
when I started my college education out there, I went to Clark for my first 2 years.
Clark EDU.
Yep, and
What was your education in? Like, were you always a design freak, or were you going to be like a psychiatrist and then you switched or something?
I didn't really know exactly,
Okay.
and I kind of followed the old adage of like, do what you're passionate about, and so
Good.
You would think maybe
Underwater basket weaving?
not quite,
No.
not quite. Clown school actually.
Oh, gosh, that'd be awesome. That'd be the best story.
And there is one in Portland, of course.
Of
course, there is.
There's an everything school in Portland.
That's true, but no. I was an English and creative writing major.
Cool.
Which has served me well at times.
Yeah.
It feels like a lifetime ago.
We got chat for that now.
Yeah.
Literally, I feel like everything's ChatGPT.
Right, no kidding. In fact, the role of the writer is one that's disappearing, I suspect. So
It's going to be interesting.
yeah, of course you can coach AI or ChatGPT to write what you want.
I love it. I think it's just the most neatest thing. Like because it still takes so much creativity.
It does.
Like, actually, to prompt it correctly.
It really does, and especially when you get to technical things. Like I was trying to have it create some technical drawings for me, just to see if I could shortcut some of the.
You're scratching a surface I think is right around the corner. Keep going.
Yeah, and so obviously it wasn't very good at it, although it was very boastful of its capabilities at first. And so
if you ask it, it's like, well, I'm pretty much
of course
the
I
best.
can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, let's talk about this, because that is not what you said you could do, and this is not what I'm asking
Yeah.
for. But I do think that that's right around the corner, and if we can save some time, in our line of work with some of that stuff, it's a huge tool.
Get the baseline model built, at least, I feel like. So hopefully we don't get too technical for anybody watching, but like, I'll use a Mosier for a lot of my measurements. It's this tool that uses gyroscopes to go around and measure the property, and then I'm able to upload a CAD drawing into my program and basically trace it, or I can square it up or something. But like, generally I get the dimensions. Or I can pay $5 for a satellite image that's scaled. But like, how cool would it be to just know that, like, look, if I take a 360 video and use what if the baseline was done? I feel like, is that there and we just don't know it?
I feel like the parts to make the baseline are there. I don't feel like they know how to
need to zap
communicate
them together
with one another, right? At least that's kind of my take so far. And like, you can coach like a ChatGPT for hours, and it'll start kind of going down the path you want it to with some of these things. Like perspective measurements, that's crazy that it can do that. That's wild. And it's so cool.
I think it's like, well, this is what I was thinking of. It's like even just from, so I had an idea of recording my conversations with my potential customers with their permission, of course, but then just, you know how they have those things that'll note take your whole meeting and stuff. And then plugging that in with some guidance and stuff. And then being able to provide like 5 renderings like now. Like, did any of these look good to you? Because otherwise it's like how many hours?
Right. And as concepts, that's something I feel like is there with AI. For a minute there, I had some issues with Structure Studio because they can be, not because I did anything, but relation to a past account with someone else who was up to some nonsense. You know how people are. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to find another way to present to these clients.
Right.
And you can get good concept renderings out of ChatGPT, for example.
That's promising.
Yeah.
And there's more of them too. Like I know that there's Bolt now. I'm starting to get kind of excited about AI because Bolt, you can write an app, speech to app.
That's crazy.
Basically, and start to change the user interface around. I'm not there yet. I'm old. I got to take some classes, but I'm excited about what that means for just getting what the people want on paper, and then
doing what we do, right?
Making it correctly accurate,
right? And I want to ask about Mosier. Do you like it?
I've had really good luck with it, and I actually get elevations as well.
I tried using it a couple years back, and it was kind of clunky, and I found it not to be very intuitive, and kind of I struggled with it.
Yeah.
But I do use technology in my measuring and surveying process. I use a drone. Every job site I go on, I will fly a drone.
Okay.
It maps the property. I use a drone mapping software.
Well, that's okay. We're almost there.
Right, and then I also use the images that it gathers.
Do you get elevations with that?
Yeah, topography.
Okay.
It's super cool.
Okay.
And then you can export it as like a DXF into and it also
generates a drawing file for anybody listening that'll import into the things you can modify. Okay.
Yep, and it'll tell you terrain, right, and elevations, etc. But what I really enjoy about it, actually more than anything, surprisingly, is the roof pictures and things like that, or house details that you would otherwise not really catch.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer in the idea that the more realistic you can make a rendering for a client, the better everybody is for it.
Where do you think, so am I good to ask what software you use? What do you like?
Structure Studios.
So you're still using that. That's what I use. There's some I've seen that seem just a tiny bit more realistic, but I really like Structure personally.
I think that a lot of people would say yes, Lumion, right?
That's the one.
Which is the plug-in add-on to SketchUp.
Yep.
Which is fantastic.
Have you used SketchUp?
I have, and I do sometimes.
Okay.
I'm not as good at it, just because lack of use, right? Or
repetitiveness.
Exactly. But I would argue that I think with Structure, you can make some comparable, if not, in some cases, better. Renderings that are just as realistic as Lumion.
Okay.
And I love it.
It's user friendly.
It is.
Like for me, old to learn it in a couple of months pretty well, I feel like speaks to its interface being like, you know a little bit about construction, and you can type an email, you can probably figure it out.
And let's think about that for a second, because we're living in a time where anybody can pick up a software like that, and within a couple weeks even start producing 3D rendered models of objects. That's wild.
Yeah, I can't wait to really pick your brain over dinner or something, because I feel like what you're talking about is just right there, especially hearing that you're using a drone mapping software. And I can go down on the ground, and then we can compare the two and average them. I could do pool radiuses and stuff with that, which is pretty cool. I feel like we're so close to just being able to input the data.
And it goes, imagine how beneficial that would be on some of these hillside projects.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And especially when it can tell you cut fill numbers too. It's...
Mosier will do that.
Does it?
But so does, the software.
Well, and that's what's crazy. Just the fact that a drone can fly overhead and take some pictures and tell you, okay, if that's the area you want to bring to this level, or reduce, this is what you need to do. And it's crazy to me, and I love it, but it's wild.
Oh man. Okay. Well, we could stay here a while. We might come back here.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious. What was it like going to get your what is it? Pool builder's license, the K20.
The KA.
KA.
It's the dual. I'm going to butcher it. It's so
You're
long.
Fine. Same.
It's the dual. Dual engineering.
Okay.
KA Dual Engineering. There we
Okay.
go.
What can you do with that? Kind of lids off.
So it's
Go
like
for it?
it's like the granddaddy to the pool
Awesome.
builder's license.
Good job.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's a big accomplishment.
It was, and I did it in a relatively short period of time, and
Okay.
I didn't think initially that that's what I was gonna like put my sights on.
Mm-hmm.
And the scope of work in that license is so vast
Mm-hmm.
that studying for it was very challenging.
Mm-hmm. How long did you study for?
About 3 months.
Dang. Okay.
Um,
Pretty religiously, like it was a lot.
well,
or-
working,
Yeah.
and I would say full time, but I think
Mm-hmm.
in this line of work, full time is kind of like we hope to get there someday because it's
Joke.
really
Yeah,
like
let's go. Sign me up for 40 hours. I am there.
right. I would love that. Like, do you even do any work around here?
I
Like,
know.
got 40 hours. My
I
goodness.
know. That's the guy that sweeps. He sweeps 40 hours a week.
Right. So 18-hour days. It took me 3 months on
Right.
top of regular work.
Okay.
But the scope is truly wild. I mean, I'm licensed to pave roads, build public works of any kind,
Wow.
hydroelectric power dams,
Wow.
and then on top of all this, core drilling and excavation for minerals and ores and everything, I'm also licensed to do just about anything on the interior of a home
Wow.
and build a swimming pool.
Okay, so this
So
is
it's
this is like a granddaddy architect's license or something. I mean, that's almost.
It's pretty wild, and the one thing I can't do is be the prime contractor for a residential dwelling,
That's so crazy.
right? And that's kind of
It's-
how they protect the GC role, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
which is
That's
fine.
awesome.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, the stack of books I have was intimidating.
Did you how'd you figure out what you needed to study? I think that's been a real challenge. Did you hire a third party or just read a bunch of books?
Well, I did use the iContractor.net.
Yeah.
Yep. They had some coursework.
I think I did too.
Yep, which was helpful in kind of guiding me, and I got the books too. But of course, you could spend the rest of your life reading through books like that.
Yeah, literally. That was the most frustrating part to me is it's like know everything that's in these books. It's like, no, really smart people know where to look.
Right, and that is one thing I would say that I appreciated about the IRC and the IBC being open book, because it's really about can you find the information, not do you have it memorized.
Yeah.
But that being said, how I found out what to study was pretty wild. I just said, what, screw it, I'm going to take the test. I didn't even have the books hadn't even arrived yet.
Okay.
And I took my first exam just like, let's just see. And I don't imagine I did very well. I didn't pass, needless to say. But that kind of really cued
Gave
me
you
in,
that, oh man, this is a big deal.
which was going to be a lot of questions about hot mix asphalt.
Which is bizarre.
It's totally.
like it should just be a little bit more separate, I feel like.
I think it's a little too broad, honestly. But I don't see anybody exploiting that for
Yeah.
any reason.
I
So
don't see you like either doing roads or doing pools. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna,
yeah,
you never know. Hey,
got one
whatever
division for
pays.
each, right?
Yeah, I know. What are some goals you have? I know we clicked really well because we both kind of like the idea of raising the industry standard and raising the grade, if you will. What are maybe some goals you have in the next year, 5, 10, to maybe implement some of those thoughts of making things a little bit better? You've kind of been, a lot of people would watch this and know who you are, frankly. Like a lot of people, I think, know you from where you've been. You've been at some bigger name companies. So what are some things that you've seen? Hey, we're not doing that, or maybe some desires you have to improve things.
I'll start with the goal, and I can tell you what my main goal is, and I could give you the 1 and 5 and 10 year that support
Okay.
that. But my main goal is I love what I do so much, and I'm so passionate about what we have the opportunity to do in this industry, and that is change the way people think about their homes, and for the better, of course.
Tagline identified.
Well,
I like it.
I've given this a lot of thought, right? And I think that there's currently there's an exclusivity between, interior, my home, and my yard, right? And I think that if we kind of change the way that we think about that and we started planning both of them together, you'd get a more harmonious home, and I think a lot more people would find enjoyment in their home instead of I got to pay some guy to take care of the back, or I have a pool guy, I have a pool I never use, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think that goes bigger than the homeowner, right? I think that that's like getting involved with developers, and certainly builders. And, even if it's just a little bit or just around here, like I just want people to start talking about, hey, it could be a little different, and it doesn't have to always be about making the most money.
For sure.
And I think like if we can improve quality of life even that much, then hey, that's a good go.
How do you feel about, so I love that, looking at things holistically, right? And I won't always get the opportunity to do that with my current license of, just basically being an outside guy. And I haven't even signed up for pools yet. And there's a ton of things I can do. But how do we maybe, how much does the visual aspect play into that? And it's a leading question because I don't know if it was you that we were at a training earlier today, which was awesome, by the way. That was cool to see you come in there. But how do you get away from just like the look that is what everybody's doing in Arizona? Like part of it drives me crazy, but part of it is it's kind of what people are buying because it's what they're seeing because people are lemmings.
It's what's out there.
Right? So it's what's out there. How do you get away from that? Or what are some trends you'd like to maybe implement or something?
So it's kind of like
giving away your secret sauce, right?
No, I'm happy to share. Nothing's secret. Nothing's
Fair.
off the table. But it's kind of like going to that vending machine, right? And they only have like 2 or 3 items left, and we just got to restock it, And
I like that.
And I think how you get away from what you see all the time, or very often anyway, is really paying a lot of attention to your customer, your client, and how they live their life. And everybody has unique, different needs from their space, right? Even in the backyard, even if we're just focusing on a patio, for example, you might have one client who loves to entertain and have a lot of parties, right? And so that's a completely different need set than somebody who's like, hey, it's just me and my wife, we're retired. We kind of just want a little pool we can stick our feet in sometimes. And and you could go on and on and on.
Yeah, that's a great point. Listen, empathize, I think, is a big one. Try to live a couple minutes in their shoes in their backyard before you start throwing your favorite design at the wall.
Right.
Which I feel is sometimes easier because it's like, oh, we'll do some steppers here and, we'll do a pad here. And it's just kind of like but today's training, actually, some of the photos too of just stuff really, taking a really rough and rugged material and then cutting it into porcelain was like, okay, we can do that. Why don't we do that? Why aren't we doing that?
Right. Well, it's cost prohibitive.
That is That's the most common problem with, not just doing whatever the heck you want.
Right. And, I think too, you're right, and it's a lot to think about, and it's a lot to grasp, and I think that, there's a lot of dollars in this industry, right? And I think that ultimately has the most say right now. And I think that, people like you and I can start to change that just by having conversations like this, like we're having, and bettering the industry and trying to, I think that we're seeing a changing of guard currently, at least here locally.
Okay.
I think that, when I started this work out here 8 years ago, there's a tribe up at the top, if you know what I mean. And I think that a lot of those folks are either retiring or in some cases, no longer with us, whatever it may be. And I think we're in an exciting period where it's going to be a little more open at the top, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just a little bit more room, a little bit less top down, a little bit more bottom up.
Just shake it up a little bit,
Brother, I'm all about it.
Me too.
That'll be a fun ride. How do you plan for, or what do you think about phasing work? Because to me, it's like so smart and it makes so much sense. But like, I'll be honest, not a lot of my folks want to go for that, and it's kind of, it seems hard to plan for. How do you get around that, or what's some advice you might have, even just for me or anybody watching?
So I get that a lot, and I have tons of clients that I work with who want to phase projects out, and sometimes they don't even know that that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But it all starts, I think, with a solid design or concept and plan that makes that a possibility, right? Because we could talk about, okay, well, we're going to do the pool now, and we'll finish up, the back half of the decking whenever. It doesn't make a lot of sense until you see it.
Right.
And then when you go, okay, this is a bite size that I can take and can handle right now, especially with the visual element, I mean, it makes all the difference. So I think that's part of it. And the other part is just really getting people invested in the idea that you're paying attention to what they need and it's their home. Because they'll really know when you're just in and out, right? Like you get the guys who want to just bang it out, burn and turn, on to the next, and make money, and that works for some people. And I think there's a lot of us who care a little bit more fundamentally about the people we're serving, I think.
Yeah, it's hard because that is the truth. A lot of people are just okay with that, and you can't really serve two masters, I guess. You're either going to be kind of doing it to the best of your ability, or you're going to be getting, kind of in and out.
Right. That's well said. I would agree with that.
Yeah. What do you see as some trends? What's coming up? What's on the horizon, or what would you like to implement if you had your way? What would you see more of? I hear you saying listen to people, but as a designer, I feel like you're kind of tasked with helping move the needle a little bit, because most people just want a square patio.
Right.
And so what do you think are some trends, and then what do you want to see happen?
So I think that the biggest trend right now is it seems that, I don't know if the last few years were rough in the industry, and I think I'm feeling that we're back on the upswing in terms of, just economic action, I guess, and things happening and people being willing to engage us in what's really not a required type of work or a need.
That is interesting about this line, is it is a little bit of a luxury.
It is, and I mean, that's where I have the most fun too. I think is that luxury space. Just because there's more.
I think any designer does. Let's be honest. Like,
that's fair.
How much? You got it.
Right.
Yeah.
The blank check, quote unquote, is always a fun project.
It's funny because there's a certain contractor that's like, okay, you need a different line. Like, I love them. I think they're doing great big things, but it's literally every reel that comes across from them is, I have a small backyard. I want to make my neighbors jealous. Do it. And it's like, okay, I get it.
Right.
Okay, so sorry.
No.
Lots of money, and you're good.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, for to that point, I think the project that you were saying that you had seen of Trace and myself recently finished, that was a small yard or a small project, I would say.
Well-designed space.
Thank you. That was a fun one, and that was very much listening to just how they wanted to live their life, like. They wanted to have a chicken coop, and they wanted to do some homesteading. I mean,
that's so fun.
That's not something you hear all the time, right?
Not out here, yeah.
No.
Oregon, everybody wants to.
For sure. Different.
I don't know if you've ever seen Portlandia, but the initial episode cracks me up all the time, because I used to live by Dayton, and it's like, yeah, they're out there.
Yep. Or the one with the bike always gets me when he's like in downtown riding the bike. Like,
oh yeah, yes. Oh my gosh, there's such a biker culture there.
Hey.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh. I lived in downtown for a period of time, for about a year and a half, and it was like every day trying to.
Those were spot on. Those were not all great episodes, but there were some that just smashed.
Or like the hide and seek bit in the library. That was.
The club,
yep.
Only in Portland,
only
like
in Portland.
where 30-somethings go to retire.
Yeah. Yep. The dream
Well,
of the
I'm
90s.
glad to be here because it's like, okay, we can encourage work. All right, let's go.
No kidding. Right.
Old school.
And I've always been a hard worker, like myself.
It shows.
I don't know what to do when I'm not occupied or working towards something.
That's awesome.
So, and it's good for oneself, at least in my experience.
I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's way healthier than the inverse. There's a happy medium, I might work a little bit too much on occasion, and that's kind of, you got to be careful of that. It's really easy to just see production over purpose, and I don't want you to think I'm calling you that, but it's like, for me personally, sometimes I get stuck doing a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why am I doing the thing?
And with a family too, I imagine that there's extra pressure there as well, right? Like I can empathize and surmise what that must be like.
It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, my dogs don't say much.
But there's only so many hours you can leave them home, or you got problems.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
okay, trends. Let's go back to trends.
So
what do you want to see? What do you want to see happen out here?
I would like to see more of the marriage of natural landscape with the home space, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like architectural, almost what you would think of when you think of like some Frank Lloyd Wright styles, and just really blending the structures into the earth itself I find very fascinating.
Okay.
Even if it's just a planter box that seems to come out of the side of a slope or like a little, little mound, that's cool.
More natural.
Yeah.
I'm in love with my designer at our shop is doing a lot of natural grasses. And coming from the Pacific Northwest, like I feel like I love that because out here it's so cactusy.
Right. It can be.
It can be. It doesn't have to be.
And you head into Paradise Valley, and it doesn't feel like you're in the desert anymore, though.
It's pretty
that's
nice
for sure.
over there.
Yeah, it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I think there's a reason for that.
Yes, I think there is too.
Yeah. Okay, so get me to your 10-year plan. I think we bounced around the one in the short term, but like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? What are you doing?
I don't
Is
know
it fair to ask?
what the day-to-day would look like, but I know that it involves. Well, I should back up just a little bit. So I can't help myself, and now I'm going to go for my my builder's license as well.
Cool.
I've already signed up with Contractor, and I didn't have to buy but two additional books because I had all the
yeah.
And I'm like, this will be easy.
I love it.
So I figured I just wanted to open up that doorway as well.
Sure.
But I would like to believe that in 10 years, I have given back to the industry. And what that looks like is I've trained and taught people around me everything that I know that works, while highlighting the things I know that don't work, because I learn the hard way every time.
So is that a contractor thing? I don't know.
It must be. It's call it stubborn, but even when I've got 5 of my most trusted allies telling me that's probably not how you want to do that, I'm going to find out my own way.
Hey, it is what it is, man. There is no lesson learned by that.
Right.
Than one lived.
And so any good student of mine would probably do the same, right? But my hope is that like I can share what
you can shake them. Yeah. No, really. I promise.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
And that's really important to me, to give back and to help others grow. Like that's a life well lived, in my opinion.
I like it.
But so I would like to say that in 10 years, in some form or fashion, I am involved in the design of the home inside and out to extend into the yard and really creating truly
synergistic, kind of like marrying the two together.
Yeah, and specific for the people who are going to live there. And not just, this is really cool. It'll definitely sell, but like, does this matter to the people who are going to be buying it or living there, and why?
Yeah, I like it. It's you're going to take their fingerprint and then go. You're going to know that's the Williams house,
right?
Because this is we modeled this courtyard after their firstborn, and this over here is where they go to do this thing, and or whatever.
Right.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's the goal. It may look a little bit different, but
it will.
Yeah, I'm sure
it will, and that's okay. I think you have to have that big picture mentality, and just I would say maybe trajectory. What is the saying? It's not about perfection, but direction. Right? So get your eyes set on where you're going, and it's going to be a stock market chart getting there.
Yeah.
But I like that you've got the vision, because it'll happen, I think, if you keep plugging away, as opposed to like wanting to do a thing to get somewhere. If you just keep your eyes on the place you want to go, I think you end up there.
And I think that in my own experience, I know that if you just keep chugging along and keep doing what you know how to do, that is all in pursuit of the goal that you set, because we're nothing without the goals we set, right? Like, I mean, we're aimless. I know that it works. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort, but it does work. And I should add, too, Masters of the Southwest is something I would love to be featured in one of these days.
Tell me more about this.
So do you not know? Oh, okay. So it's for like a
color,
the 101.
Color me silly. No, I haven't heard of this. I probably just outed myself, huh?
No.
Okay.
It's really not that publicized, interestingly enough. But Phoenix Home and Garden, the magazine, the publication, I don't know. I believe it's yearly. They have a round table within their staff at the publication, and they award more or less the designation of Master of the Southwest. I think they do. It might be 5. Wow. Might be less even.
Okay.
And these are typically the names in the industry that you or I would even not being from here have heard, right?
It's next level.
Right. And you'd be like, oh, of course, so-and-so. Yeah, that makes sense. It's probably overdue kind of thing. But
Cool.
yeah, just to, not that for the accolade, but to really feel like I've mastered my craft would be something I'd really
I
appreciate.
feel like it's okay to like go after accolades, honestly. Like, I hear you, but like the accolade usually is ascribed to somebody that's done the thing they wanted to do.
Well, you can still find me at the Alka Awards every year, so
Yeah.
there's some truth to what you're saying.
Very cool.
So yeah, if nothing else, it helps legitimize the work that you do, I think, in the eyes of a lot of people. And if that's what it takes to get where you want to go to help more people, then I think that's what you do.
Okay, so in the spirit of helping, what are maybe some pitfalls that you've encountered that you might be willing to share from any perspective, as vague or specific as you'd like, but what are a couple things that maybe a young designer watching this, a young landscaper watching this, maybe somebody that's working for somebody they'd rather not be working for? Give me some insight.
Yeah, I have some. Depending on the audience, any one of those groups, my first and probably foremost advice would be sometimes it's okay to say no. As a person who wants to be very helpful, for whatever reason, finding that that's very important to me, I have overextended myself in the past.
Yeah.
Like brutally so.
Yeah.
To the point of my own health, and it's not worth it, right? And seldom is it recognized for what it is either, or appreciated in terms of the effort that's really given. So sometimes I think if I had it to do over again, that's something I would wish that I would have known, or told myself, or heard from somebody in a way that I was going to actually retain it.
That's a key one. I respect that a lot.
It's real, right? Like, and you'll drain yourself, and when you're drained, it's hard to be productive, and it's hard to find the joy and the passion in what you do, and you end up disappointing people who you wanted to make happy, right? And it's rough.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Another one, I would say, get everything in writing, always.
That's fantastic. And unfortunate. But fantastic.
I mean, it couldn't be more true, and it seems like such a cliche and something everybody, well, of course, and it doesn't happen.
Tell me more about what you mean by get everything in writing. What are some examples?
Every
of
agreement
things
you make, if...
with employers, with clients,
everyone,
Okay.
if you have to,
Okay.
which I think you do, unfortunately. And it's not to be cynical, but
Sure.
it's just to leave very little, if any, room for questioning or lack of clarity. Like,
where you've got something to point to when you've got a question and say, I see this, can we do it this way? Because we're clearly doing it this way, right? I think that's one thing that does come up. There's certain things that seem to come up often, or every podcast, and one of them is expectations and reality. And when those two are on par, I think you have happy people. When you start to get out of balance with kind of either one of them, not happy people.
no.
So that's a great way to mediate against that.
Right, and that you could tie that into the construction handoff from sales to build, or you could.
It's a tough one.
I mean,
I'm finding out more and more that it's
yeah, it can be.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm going to let you finish. I have my next question ready.
Oh, okay.
So more on maybe do's and don'ts.
I just, I would stress how important it is to operate with integrity. And I think that there is not always enough of it in our industry. And I'm sure it's true of every industry.
It is.
Unfortunately. But you're going to have happier people, happier employees, happier self, happier home life when you're operating from a place of sincerity and genuine care and integrity, and doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And
I would add, get it out on the table. If it's not okay and you failed an inspection, call them.
Yeah,
We failed. This was crazy. I can't believe that. Sorry.
No. You're right. And because not every build is going to go. None of them do. I've never been on a single project that went great all the way through. Like,
Yep.
but it's how you handle those speed bumps.
1,000%.
And you know, it's I'm reading a book currently that's called Pick Up the Phone and Sell. And
Okay.
even though, you know, a lot of it relates to, you know, obviously outside of sales, sometimes picking up the phone and just calling your client just to talk to them about, hey, maybe the failed inspection, or even better yet, we should work to be building the kind of relationships where you just call them when there's nothing wrong at all. Right?
Wow, that's some gold right there.
You know, I mean, I've had more than a couple drinks with some of my clients. I mean,
That's a really good advice, though.
It's true.
It's just, and I think just picking up the phone and calling anyone. Can we not just text? Can we not just, you know, pretty soon our bots will be talking.
And do you know how many proposals go out in the city a day, namelessly, almost via email, or even you know, via a text link? Some people be doing these days, and it's so impersonal. And I mean,
that's what I want to get away from. We're doing almost all of our bids in person now, and walking through the design in person now, and not giving over the design anymore. And, you know,
that's another one you got to be careful of.
I don't know. I'd go back and forth with that. Like, you got to communicate your vision. And at the end of the day, like, it's tough.
I hand it away every time.
Do you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
I've gotten to see a lot of my projects get built, but not by me.
Yeah, fair enough. This is very true.
And I would caution maybe against it, but I don't want to be different either. Because part of my process would be, here's your proposal, which has everything you need to go shop. Here's your conceptual plan, and here's your 3D video. Let me know what you think.
Well, also, maybe this is personal. Do you charge for designs? Like, is that part of your scope? So you're kind of getting paid for that anyways. That seems a little more realistic to me.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm kind of trying to win a job. And putting probably not as much time, but a lot of time into that design.
And I used to do free designs, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it. And I really got to a point where, for one, people were not valuing my time, and I felt really burnt out. And you know, I would work 40, 60 hours on a design for someone to just ghost me once they got it, and that became frustrating. And you know, I had been with a couple companies that subscribed to the design only, or paid designs, I should say, you know, kind of philosophy, and that made sense to me. Now, I do charge for the design work that I do. It's not to the level of some of these design firms around here, where it's $30,000 for a design.
That's a thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. More than you might think.
Okay. Starting another company.
Right. But that being said, you know, I worked hard to get as proficient with the software that I am, and to know the plants in the area, and to really understand construction well enough to design things that are buildable.
It'll work, yeah.
Especially when you start talking hillside, that requires a very specific skill set that many people don't possess.
I would agree.
Even though they'll tell you they do.
I would agree.
And so, in that sense, you know, I find that me asking or really commanding, I guess, for lack of a better word, you know, that my time be valued is not unreasonable. We don't ask anybody to do their work for free, right? You wouldn't go see a doctor and be like, hey, I mean,
I'm here for my free 3-hour exam and operation.
Yeah, if you could go ahead and do that back surgery for me on the house this time, that'd be great, right? And there's this expectation.
It's crazy to put it in those words, but yeah.
Right, and there's this expectation that landscape designs, in particular, should be free because someone else is going to do it for free. And it's like, well, I don't think you want a free design as a homeowner, right? I know I wouldn't. Like, I would rather somebody's invested and cares. But the caveat is that the designs I do charge for are credited back towards my clients when they contract with us. So another way of saying it.
I think that's my favorite model, frankly.
Yep.
But you said something different. Now, it's tough, too, because I would rather build that relationship of, are you working with us or not?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like everybody else is doing it.
Yep.
Like, they can get free designs if they want them, bro.
Sure
That's
can.
happening.
And then you just got to make sure that your product is good enough that they want to work with you.
It's a double-edged sword, too, because, like, a lot of these companies can design it, but can they come through on the build? And I think
I could tell you some stories.
That's a huge challenge, you know?
Yes.
Because as a designer, you got to know the limits of who you're designing for.
100% from even on your
My
camp.
team.
Yeah, your team.
Like if my guy designs something wonky, it's like, no, we're not doing that.
Or conversely, like I've seen many designers who are outranking their construction crew's ability to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a big difference between a $20,000 job and a $2 million job.
I would say.
And I think actually, ironically, the $2 million jobs end up being a lot smoother and easier, but that's probably because you're dealing with, more qualified personnel across the
They're
board.
at the top of their game.
Hopefully.
I would hope so too. Yeah.
I've seen some go horribly wrong, unfortunately, but most of the time.
Trying to remember my last question. It was, let's see, we were in design, and then, okay. So you were talking about a difficulty between passing off the baton from, say, and it depends on your industry and your, well, not only industry, but your organization. Do you have a sales, design, install, project manager, or is that one guy, or what? But like, how have you most successfully seen that play out? And hold on a second. Myself, I liked to do it all myself. Mm-hmm. But I have team members that are better, like they're awesome at this one thing. What do you think you've seen work best there?
So I think that, because the question is
what's the best way?
Right. No, I'm with it.
Sorry.
What I mean to say is another way of saying it is you're asking about the sales to operations handoff, right? So that way it kind of blankets any industry.
That's better. Yeah.
Right? And you have to have some knowledge of both, right? And in my experience, it's been me that does it as well. Or that's how it started, right? Was, well, if I take care of it, I know this, and this from either side.
And you designed it too,
right?
Know? So it's
and
like
that's an added layer to that onion, right? However, that's not realistic.
I agree.
And so, someone in my position, your position, how do we do that? And I find that it works best by one, having faith and trust in people to do their job. Aside from the guy you just hired kind of thing.
Yeah, back to expectations. I like that.
And they're gonna make mistakes sometimes, and they're gonna have to learn the same way that you or I did, right?
Fair.
Of course, you want to prevent that for them and for your clients whenever possible, but the reality is it's not how life works. So that's part of it, but I think that the other part of it is just making, if you're one who knows the answer to those questions or how to make something go from A to B in a smooth way, then it's your responsibility to be at least available and build that culture where your team around you knows, like, okay, if I don't know what I'm doing or I get stuck on something, I can reach out, rather than if you mess this up, you're fired kind of thing, right?
Yeah, we're not running that show. I like the open book. I think I like the specialist model. That's really what's been working for us so far. In other words, one salesman, one designer, maybe even a selection artist, and then,
Interesting. Okay.
Really, really specific.
Okay. Are you able to handle volume? Like a lot of
I think
different...
volume is where that gets weird,
right?
Honestly. Like, it's so tough because there's so many different moving parts. I haven't fleshed it all the way out yet. But I just feel like if it's just one guy's job to design each project and hand it off to the same team every time, I feel like you can get some cookie cutter processes for custom work.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then what happens because I know my workload, I could probably only do, like, if I were the designer in that case, I mean, and I'd probably only be able to do like one a week. But I'd be giving it like my all for a week, or maybe more.
That's
fair. Do you get another team?
I think I would almost have teams. I think.
Okay.
Or there would be, there's maybe at scale you have 3 designers instead of
pods,
one.
right?
You that's
do
kind
like
of almost how I've got this envisioned. Is
interesting.
There is this team that always works together, and I just feel like it would work. I don't know.
No, I can see that. And of course, I've seen it done all sorts of different ways, and that model is a little unique from what I've seen. And the reality is, I'm always interested when I hear someone say that I have designers, but also salespeople. Because the expectation that was always on me when I started this work was you are both. Like you are never not one or the other. And it's interesting because not everybody in this line of work, not every designer is a salesperson. and not every salesperson is a designer.
Bro, I'm sorry, but 1,000. Like, there are people, yourself, myself, my designer is my salesman. There's people that can do it, you know, but like, I'm better at the infrastructure, getting it done side. He's never done it, you know, so, but to pigeonhole somebody, I guess what my point is what are you best at? And then what are you also good at?
Me personally?
No, I'm sorry. Just that 10,000 foot view.
I gotcha.
For him, if he was able to go and meet with a client, understand their needs, convey it to a designer, and say, do awesome things, I think that would be a rinse and repeat.
Absolutely. And it's finding the right people then in that role,
Sure.
right? Which is, of course, the challenge in anywhere, anytime.
Or we're all rich.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
On to other things. So tell me a little bit about, a little bit more about you. Like,
Sure.
I have never met you before. Just, you know, randomly, hey, you should have this guy on your podcast. I was like, yeah, sure. He looks cool. Let's talk about it. So tell me more about, like, how do you chill out?
So I love the outdoors.
Okay.
And that's one thing that is nice about Arizona. It's not quite the same as summers in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, they're amazing.
I know.
But they're only 3 months. So.
Exactly. I love anything outdoors. I have 2 dogs.
Okay.
They're my whole world.
What kind of dogs?
A pit lab mix. Her name is Navi or Navaja.
Okay.
And an Australian Shepherd. And he's Chaco, but he's still a baby boy, so he's chalky.
You like crazy dogs?
They're both,
Are they okay?
They're very well
They
behaved.
seem high
I am
energy.
so blessed. They are so calm and they're just. They are exactly what I needed them to be in my
That's
life.
cool. That's cool.
When they came in at their different times.
Were they rescues, or did you get them puppies, or what?
So Navi was a rescue, and she was, I think, like they said 8 weeks. I'm a little skeptical, somewhere around there. She was a rescue.
Were you told it was one breed, and then you're like 6 months later, you're like, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, they did say pit lab mix, and I can
Okay.
kind of see it, but sometimes I wonder.
We got one that was like, this is like a teacup poodle, you know, or something,
Right.
and it's a Chihuahua.
Right.
You know, it was so bad.
Right. You know, but you know, I'm totally support. You know, the rescue of.
I'm a
any-
Chihuahua hater. They're
Yeah, well,
mean.
yeah.
They're mean and they're ugly.
Yeah, they.
Sorry,
should.
no hate. Chihuahuas are great.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Not for everybody.
Not for, maybe that's the better term. Yeah, not for everybody, especially me.
And I got Chalky as a puppy.
Okay.
And that was, let's see, this Valentine's Day he'll be 2 years old.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and he's actually been the greatest. Like, and low key for a shepherd, like. He's beautiful too.
You're lucky. Yeah, we have a Aussie doodle at home. We had a golden doodle before him, and he's actually chill too. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been happy with all the, I guess they're poodle mixes, you know, that we've ended up with. Too.
Very, very
So,
smart.
Yeah, they're smart. They're chill. They're good family dogs. So far, so good.
Yep.
Okay, so outdoors, maybe the greatest adventure. What's your greatest adventure?
Leaving Minnesota when I was 21.
Okay.
I'll never forget the day because me and my ex-wife at the time we loaded up the car with whatever would fit and we just drove west and that feeling of like getting out of the job that I hated and like I just felt like the world was in front of me and I don't think I've ever felt like that again.
Well said.
Not to that extent.
Yeah.
And we drove west and we took a whole 9 days to get to Portland because we took every detour and stopped at every cool little place we wanted to and like I just felt it was the most liberating like feeling of freedom.
Yeah, I love those road trip stories. You know, I still remember a road trip I took when I was like 7, I think, to like Colorado, and we stopped at like some big rubber band ball, or you know, like the
World's
stupidest
largest
stuff. And I'm
yarn.
like, this was so awesome. Take me back. I want to do it again. Okay, your turn. I know early on I was like, this has got to be, you know, 70-30, but I've dominated and been like 95-5. So, what's up?
So my turn.
Any thoughts? Any questions for me?
Yeah. So I guess I don't know a ton about your business. When did you start it?
About 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And you've already got a truck wrapped?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
We're getting after it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you find works best for you? Like in terms of getting after it and getting the phone to ring?
It's just, first of all, it's just door knocking was probably the best way.
Like actual door knocking?
Actual door knocking.
I worked with a guy who swore by it.
It's draining and it's really a challenge, but you know, it's also one of the best ways because you're in a spot where you pretty much know they need a backyard,
Right.
right?
So new build in particular?
New build, and then I kind of walked into it with my first job, and I basically just took all the profits from that and did Facebook leads,
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
said I want an Instagram page. I wanted to just kind of like pretend as if we've been doing this for 10 years.
Which you
Because
kinda
I
have to
have. Well, and I have. Like,
Right, right.
I know the game, but it was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, there's no like, bootstrapping it. We're going to kind of pretend, and it just paid off.
Yep.
So praise God, it just really paid off in that perspective. And then I think I just do okay in front of people. Like,
Yeah.
I try to be honest, and I try to listen to them. Many of the things we talked about today, I just try. I try a lot of that. Try to empathize with how they want to use their space. It's not always going to pan out. Cut bait when it's time.
Right.
Not chase dead leads, and just go after the hottest leads that want to work with you.
Yeah.
At
And
the
try
end
not
of
to take things too personal, I imagine, right? 'Cause
amen, brother. Yeah,
it's tough, but
it is.
it's necessary.
It's business. There's been that's funny you would say that. There's been a handful where one I can think of specifically was I designed this retreat for this. I gotta probably be careful. I just designed this really big, cool 1 acre. We have this, that, everything for the grandkids. Paid for the design. Ghosted. Within budget, and it was just kind of I would like to know why.
And as a creative too, you're putting yourself into those
Especially
projects.
those ones. Those are the ones where you're like, okay, everybody go away.
Yes.
I'm locked in.
And they get ghosted. It hurts, man.
That's that's a good point. Yeah, it was that kind of stung a little bit.
And you want to know why, and you may never get that answer. I've got a couple that come to mind myself, where I still to this day, when I go to bed at night, I'm like, why?
Why? We've just really hit the ground running. I'm good at what I do and just dedicated, and I really want to grow a company that is employee centric. Right?
I love that. I love that.
That's the idea, and we're trying hard to do it. I'm figuring out it's harder than just saying we're going to do it.
Right.
Employees are expensive. I think I've already got a pretty good idea there, though, too. I think we talked about a little bit coming in here that we'll keep under wraps, but
Yeah.
I'm excited about the future.
Great. I was going to ask, and now you got me thinking about that, so I lost my train of thought.
That's fair.
However, throwaway question: do you love what you do?
I do.
Yeah.
Starting the business aspect is like eating glass.
Right.
However, I love what I do, and I think you've got to be a visionary and see what's on the other side of the mountain, or know what you're going to see at the top of the mountain to eat glass for 6 months to a year. So, if for anybody out there eating glass, the chunks get smaller, and pretty soon you don't even know it, and then you're not anymore, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, designing's like that sometimes too. I say, to anybody, oh, that's a great design. And I'm like, you know what? I am just willing to bang my head against the wall long enough until something cool finally falls out.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's determination. It's not necessarily innate
designing
ability.
can be draining though too. So I think somebody that just designs permanently, if you're really pouring your heart and soul in, it's a challenge.
And I've been in that position, and I think that actually had a lot to do with why, and I grew up in and around construction, so making the jump for me wasn't that wild, to go, okay, I'm going to get my license.
Sure.
But part of that was, to escape that kind of, for one, being trapped behind the computer exclusively is tough. And two, just really, it's a lot. It's a lot to be creative on days you don't feel like being creative, and you have to because that's your job, and otherwise you're not putting food on the table. It's hard. And so I enjoy the ability to go work with my hands. I've always loved that.
I'm missing that aspect right now, so I feel you.
Yeah. What's stopping you
It's
from
around
doing
the
it?
corner. Just tedious, starting a business stuff.
You could make a day.
I need to make a day. If I can make time for a friggin' podcast, I can go work in the field for a day.
Well, I love that you're doing this. It's really cool. I don't know anybody else that is, and I think it's a great way to align the industry and at least get, because we all know who we are.
Yeah, exactly. We really do. The training this morning was cool because it's like the people that are usually there, they're at least trying.
Right.
They want to see things improve. So.
Right.
Well, I think we're on the same page, man. This was fun. I think this is probably the first of many conversations we'll have in the future. So, Jack, thank you so much for coming on.
I believe it. I agree. And look forward to having those conversations.
Cool, man.
Thanks
See
for
you
having
next
me.
time. Yep.
Yeah, you bet.